Welcome to the Magic on the Inside podcast by the Sisters Enchanted, where we chat magic, hot topics, personal development, and good old-fashioned life. Brew up something delicious and sit with us for a spell.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Magic on the Inside podcast. This is an Astro forecast edition of our podcast, and if you don't know me, hello. I'm Anna Tower, the co-founder here at the Sisters Enchanted and one of our teachers of our Expedition Astrology program, and I'm joined by
Sarah Milne, hello. And I am also part of Team TSC and another Expedition Astrology teacher.
Yes.
So it's great to be with you today.
Yes, as always. So this week we are rolling in the end of August. We're stepping into September, and we have a theme of directing our motivations and some Mars action. Is that right, Sarah?
Yeah, there's a lot of Mars going on this week. There's some interesting aspects of Mars going on this week. And September, so people are beginning to think about going back to school and these kind of things. So I think directing our motivation is a good theme for this week.
Oh my goodness, you just hit me with such a truth bomb of the fact that school starting.
I know. Do you know, I still feel super motivated in September. Like September still feels to me like new year, new start, could get working, have new stationery, all this stuff still. My age.
I actually really enjoy some good new stationery.
Oh, I do.
Some organization, because we're also, it didn't happen this week, but we're also now into Virgo season, which is a great time to be kind of a little bit more aware of your structure and organization.
It is.
And a little bit more particular.
Absolutely. And of course, it's Anna's birthday week. So happy birthday, Anna. So maybe you'll get some new stationery for your birthday.
Maybe. Some things to write with.
So first thing, then we have Mars opposite Neptune on Wednesday, right through till next Monday. So this is really interesting because, of course, Mars is all about how we assert ourselves into the world. Mars rules our willful actions and our motivations, which are all about asserting our will, our way, the things we want to do, what motivates us into the world. And Neptune, of course, is how we lose ourselves to kind of connect with others and to connect with things that are bigger than ourselves and to connect into our spirituality and our imagination. And Neptune is a lot about how we lose ourselves when ourselves are too much for ourselves. That's a complicated sentence there, isn't it? But we are often too much for ourselves. Our emotions can be too much for ourselves. Mars can be too much for ourselves. Our motivation and our will and asserting ourselves can be too much for ourselves sometimes, and we shrink back. And the world can be too much for us. And Neptune says a lot about how we escape from ourselves and from the world when it becomes too much. So we have this kind of interesting tug of war. So when two planets are in opposition, they kind of tug of war a bit with each other. So we have this interesting tug of war between wanting to be more in the world and wanting to retract and escape from ourselves and the world. So this is really interesting, and it can be quite a difficult aspect. It can lead us to feel quite discouraged and quite unmotivated and inadequate, like we're trying to achieve something, and at the same time we're feeling like it's too much and we need to escape from this. So really, this week might not be the best week to strive hard for something. If there's something that it is really super important to you, and you're going to really judge yourself and your success and all these things and your power and all of this based on how well this plays out for you, perhaps this isn't a week. Maybe pull off the gas a little bit this week, because otherwise you might lead to be feeling really quite susceptible to disappointments during this week, because our expectations and our wills and our desires that are Mars's territory can be really out of sync with the reality that's Neptune's territory. And we might feel quite vulnerable to kind of feeling disappointed and feeling but we haven't achieved what we want to achieve. And especially with Mars in Virgo, as we said, making us super analytical and super self-critical, we could be like, well, I haven't got this to be able to do that. I messed up. I wasn't able to do that. And then of course, Neptune is in its own watery Pisces. So the need to escape can be strong. And Neptune can lead us into some of these things, these vices and these more kind of like habits and things, addictions. So it can leave us open to this. If we're trying to achieve something we haven't achieved it, we might be susceptible to some of the things that we perhaps are trying not to fall into in the way that we escape from ourselves. So it's
Right.
quite an interesting dynamic, this is.
For sure. Because I know in our Expedition Astrology program, which we've been working hard to make even more fantastic.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and in a lot of our birth chart basics classes and our even like when we do have like an astrology like webinar or things like that, we talk a lot about elements and elemental
Mhm.
combinations between things. And when we're looking at Mars in an opposition to Neptune, it is fire in
Mm.
opposition to water. And
Yes.
fire and water, um, elementally speaking, you think of those quickly and you don't think that they're like the best match because
Yeah.
they have to be. I use this to talk a lot about how like if you're going to make spaghetti, you can't
Mhm.
underboil the water or the spaghetti will never cook. If you keep it on high and over boils the whole time, you might have burnt spaghetti at the bottom of your pot. You may have mushy pasta with a big overflowing mess because you've overheated it. And
Yeah.
so with fire and water, you have to have that regular temperature that you can regulate in order to have something come out of it. And when you have an opposition, you have things that aren't always receptive of each other. So it
Yeah.
might be like Sarah was saying, it might not be as easy to like regulate the amount of heat you put to water or the amount of water that you put to heat because otherwise
Mm.
you might douse something out entirely. So
Yeah.
when an element like this is in opposition, finding the balance is even harder, and that's why it's a good time to take a step back if you have to because
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Neptune's in Pisces. So we've got like its own signs. We have all that water on that side of the opposition. And then we have like Mars in Virgo. So we have the fire and the earth on the other side of the opposition. So that water can just come along and just like make the earth all muddy, make Virgo's analytical, like trying to perfect things, like feel muddy, and Mars feel washed out and make us just feel, you know what, the fire's gone out. My super analytic, I had my mind on this and now it's gone all muddy and I just feel there.
well, especially with Virgo, yes, it is analytical. Yes, it's
Yeah.
specific and it wants to be structured, but because it's kind of that middle earth sign, that kind of that mutable earth sign,
Yes.
it doesn't always have the same like gumption, I guess, as like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
Capricorn earth sign
Right.
would have. So it would easily get muddied if
Mhm.
all of a sudden it started overthinking its process
Yeah.
or getting too emotionally
Mm.
involved because then yeah, the mind will start to get scattered, and that makes particular Virgo less able to make
Yeah.
their specific goals for
Absolutely.
sure.
It does. And this all sounds a bit like, this might sound a little bit like, whoa, what am I going to do? So the thing to do is to channel all of this into creativity and spirituality. Because of course, Neptune is our imagination. Neptune is our connection with spiritual things. So the best thing to do is, I would say, is take the foot off the gas a little bit and just take some time out and do something creative, connect with your spirituality, get your tarot cards out or your astrology charts out, or just whatever spirituality looks like for you. It might just be a nice walk outside and connecting with nature, all that good stuff. Connect with that because that can protect you from like trying hard with this kind of Mars in Virgo kind of energy, feeling discouraged, and then perhaps escaping from yourself in a way that in the world in a way that you didn't really choose to. So you can take control of this by just channeling that energy into your creativity and spirituality and giving yourself a couple of days just to say, you know what, I'm doing this lovely stuff and
Like
escaping that way. Yeah.
it. I like it. So
Yeah.
by the end of the week, we're gonna have a Mars trine Pluto situation.
Yes. Yes, so we then go to Mars, trine Pluto, and these are obviously overlapping because the Mars opposite Neptune is Wednesday through to next Monday, and the Mars trine Pluto starts on Thursday and takes us right through next week. So this gives our planet of this is a so a trine is when things are flowing well, when we have this kind of like planets in the same elements and flowing really, really nicely. So this is an Earth trine, and we have this kind of good energy flow between this planet of action and our planet of depth and our planet of intensity and our planet of in transformation. So Mars is it's our desires. Pluto, like how we act on our desires. Pluto's going to take that and make it really, really deep and intense. So we're going to really feel those desires deeply and intensely, and we're going to want to act on them. So, and it's going to be a good time for rebirth, like that real rebirth level transformation, death to old, new life, and all that kind of good stuff, which is another good thing at this time of year when we are going back to perhaps college and school, or the children might be going back to school, and you've kind of got this new kind of, like I say, I always feel like September does give us that kind of sense of new year. And then, of course, it's harvest season, and we come up to soon to Selvin, which is the witch's new year. So I really do feel new year is this. I never really feel like January is new year. So this is quite a nice for this kind of new year time. So we're going to be motivated towards anything that brings us power. So this is a good time to work on a project that you might be striving for. So maybe kind of wait until that Mars opposite Neptune is over, and maybe kind of do this towards next week. But you can start thinking about it. So if you are wanting a work promotion or something like that, you might want to start thinking about what project, if there was a project you think you could do that might bring that about. That's a good thing. But also shadow work. So I would say we've given the kind of like the fact we have this Mars opposite Neptune coming first, maybe start off this week with looking at some shadow work, and you could look at that creatively. You might want to kind of do shadow work in a like through a painting or for a piece of art or through some kind of spiritual work, because have a look and see what is holding you back from feeling more powerful. What is holding you back from a progression in any area of life that could bring you success or power or transformation? Do some shadow work, do some deep inner work to see what barriers you're putting up in front of yourself. You could do that during the time you're taking your foot off the gas in the Mars opposite Neptune. And then once you've done that, and once the Mars opposite Neptune is over, you can then go full throttle and set out and achieve these things. And remember also that Mars rules sexual behaviors and sexuality, and Pluto rules our deep, intense, and transformational relationships. So this might be a good time to bring transformation to existing relationships, including, of course, to yourself. And any new relationships that kind of start around now could be very deep and very transformational. And also, Pluto loves everything occult, and of course, Mars is that motivation. So you might be motivated to explore in the depths of your spirituality and the depths of what that means to you, and all this kind of good stuff. So I really feel like these two go together well, like with sort of from Wednesday to next Monday. So the end of this week, use that Mars opposite Neptune creativity and imagination and spiritual connection to do this shadow work and deep self-exploration. And then next week you can start the action phase of this Mars trine Pluto, which is kind of cool. And Mars is in Virgo, so again, it's that analytical, so take some time first, what needs care and attention, where do you need some healing? And then Pluto's in Capricorn, so that's really going to help us to stay the course, and actually whatever Mars is motivating us to then do, to stay the course and see that through.
I like it. We're touching on a lot of signs and things that I have in my own chart. And I like to think that it's my like strong time when things like this happen.
Yeah.
Although I'm always like, this is gonna be a great time for me. And then it's like the opposite. But it's gonna be great. I'm super excited for some Virgo action, some Mars and Virgo. And I really look forward to Mars and Pluto things happening.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I do. Because they're kind of without getting too off track, so that we can wrap up and not do too long of a podcast for everybody here. But astrologically speaking, um, Mars and Pluto both used to have Aries
Mm,
energy attached to them.
yeah.
And so they really do have this kind of tag team energy attached to
Mm,
them in a way. And then when you add Pluto to it, you don't only just get drive, but you get that passion underneath it
yeah.
as well, which is,
Absolutely, and you can see also Mars and Pluto in terms of octaves, like Pluto is a higher octave of Mars in the sense that if you imagine vibrations and like musical notes, like a middle C and then a high C is a higher frequency, a higher octave.
yeah,
So Mars kind of is all about what our motivations are and how we act in the world. And then Pluto up there is like, okay, so you've done that. How do you feel about that? Has that made you feel good or has that made you feel a little bit guilty? So how are you going to transform? Like, so Pluto, kind of how we act, Pluto sort of like, how's that impacted society?
yeah,
How has that impacted others? How do you feel about that? So
yeah,
we've got that kind of octave of two planets here, like the lower kind of inner octave of our own kind of like orb that's around us that we see,
right.
and then the higher octave of how those behaviors have kind of like impacted society on a wider level going on there too.
I love that. Just in
Cool.
my mind, I just see like Mars, like the Roman god Mars, with like a tiny little Pluto on his shoulders. And,
Yeah.
and he's doing things, and Pluto's like, hey, how'd that feel? Ask him the hard questions because, mythologically speaking, and stuff like that. It's
Mm,
always like the energy of the underworld, the deity of the underworld
mm.
to ask the hard questions that make you kind of go,
Yes.
and like, are you right? Are you wrong? Are you not? Like, what is right and
Yeah.
wrong? Like, what? And it just seems, I don't know, lots of fun for me.
It is. I think it's going to be super cool, super fun. So I would just remember we've got in the notes, in the show notes in the app, there are some other planetary activities that you could look out for. And we've talked about Venus trine Jupiter in there, which sets us up for next week. And also the moon transversing through Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. So that's there for you in the app notes.
So to find the Sisters Enchanted app, you can just look up the Sisters Enchanted anywhere in your app store on your cellular device.
Mhm.
Or you can check us out on the browser at thesistersenchanted.com/app. And you can check out the astrology forecast with the show notes, as well as lots of other goodies and things to do in there. So be sure to head over there and check it out.
Yeah,
So I think that's it for this week. Sarah, thanks for joining me for another Astro Forecast.
you're very welcome. And
Yeah.
have a wonderful birthday week.
Thank you. And we hope that everybody else here has an enchanted rest of your day ahead.
Yeah.